Assemble is a community space for arts and technology on Penn Avenue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, actually just down the street from the Natural History Center Museum. And these are some of my assemblers. This is Brianna, Danica, and KK. They are also actually some of my neighbors. And these girls come and they're making it happen in our space. Now, even though they remind me a lot of TLC in this pose, they remind me a lot of myself around that age. And I was definitely someone who might have not been a maker, but was a breaker. And I think my mother's in the audience, and she can attest to me breaking everything quite often. And that would obviously get me in trouble. And I have since become a selective breaker and have been choosing which systems to break from there. So breaking and making led me to architecture. And with architecture, after I finished my graduate degree, undergraduate at CMU and graduate at Southern California Institute of Architecture, I found myself working on a research project for Los Angeles public schools, where we were looking at how contemporary methods of pedagogy were informing our designs of schools. Because obviously, I'm talking to you with a small computer in my hand, and kids are not learning by just books and sitting in rows anymore. So that also led to me working with a bunch of awesome kids in South Central at George Washington Carver Middle School. And we worked on the competition for the classroom of the future. And there's a small image up there on the screen. And these are my kids. And one of the main things that we focused on, other than how to read a ruler, learning about architectural history, and how to start building things, was that someone made up the entire world around you. It's true. Someone made up what this space looks like. Someone else made up what you are wearing right now. And even someone designed the food that you put in your body, from what a hamburger should look like, or what a coffee cup should look like, or why does coffee look that way? Anyway, so someone else did all this stuff and made this world around us. And I like to ask people to think, well, why can't you? Why can't you do that too? You have the agency to take control of the world around you. With these kids, I ask them to think about, why do you need the bars on your windows at your school? It doesn't have to be that way. There could be a garden or a living wall where you can grow your own snacks for snack time, or having a beanbags area to study and break out and to work in groups and to understand each other as well as what you're working on. So thinking about beyond what you're given and thinking about what you can do. So giving others agency, really important. And thinking about what could be. Architecture is all about studying what could be. I mean, really, you're spending hours and hours making drawings and models for some science fiction that doesn't exist yet until someone funds it. So with that idea of coming up with an idea to encourage others to challenge and to find their own agency in the world, I created Assemble. And Assemble is again, community space for arts and technology in the urban neighborhood of Garfield in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We unite artists, makers, and technologists with our neighbors of all demographics. Big kids and little people, as I like to call them. And Assemble provides a platform for experiential learning, opening up the creative processes, and building confidence through making. There's a lot of action going on. And there are some other spaces similar to what we're doing. One might call us a maker space, which we are. When I was creating this, I had no idea about the maker movement. Though I helped to start a DIY indie craft fair, the maker movement wasn't something that was in my periphery. And that just became part of the idea. We do something a little bit different. Even though I was inspired by places like machine projects and am still inspired by places like Mount Elliott in Detroit and DreamYard in the Bronx, we're still a little bit different. At Assemble, we are doing some of the following. We are showcasing different artists, makers, and technologists in our space. So similar to an art gallery, you have a new person or new expert on display, their work for that whole month. And during that month, they are encouraged to have an artist talk and or a workshop. So always having a chance where people can see, how did you make that? Why did you make that? How can I make it too? Opening up the creative processes. Now, while you're in there, we're also having so many different types of workshops with so many different people. So there's always this aspect of education. It could be an active educational experience, or it could be a passive educational experience where you're pressing a button and something happens on the wall. And while that's all happening, the person who's showcasing their work is also incubating their ideas. So trying it with the public, especially a public that you might not find signing up on the internet to play test your idea. Again, we are in Garfield. We invite different experts to share their experiences. This happens through social interaction. We have multiple different events such as learning parties where we bring people from places like here or other colleges, organizations, straight up nerds, to share what they're excited about and to get other people, especially kids, excited about it too. And through that social interaction, we're able to translate contemporary knowledge to be attainable by the youth that we're working with. So not dumbing it down, we're translating it so that other people can understand and making it accessible. We work a lot with STEAM education. So a lot of you might be familiar with STEM, science, tech, engineering, math. We get that A in there, but why? Maybe it's how we think about all these different topics. Science, it's how we look at the world. It's the observations, right? You're looking at something in a microscope. You're observing nature and the different changes. It's the world that we see around us. Math is how we prove it. Okay, so if I drop this cell phone, I know that it's going to fall according to some great calculations with gravity. Awesome. I'm not going to drop the phone. And engineering is how we start to shape the science around us or the world around us. I know that we could take aluminum and somehow, take the alloy and transfer it and turn it into the back of the cell phone. Someone has engineered that. Someone actively made a difference with that materials. And technology is the stuff that you make. Forks are technology. It's anything made by a human, which is really cool. This is a piece of technology. Technology doesn't have to be something electric. Art. Why is art there? It's all about STEM careers. Art is in there because I feel that it's for the communication. How many people here know an engineer or a scientist that cannot communicate? You are welcome to raise your hand. Communication, again, is really hard for some people who are really diving into what they're passionate about. Art helps people to communicate. If you can't draw, how can you draw a physics forces diagram? Right? So thinking about how you communicate beyond your own jargon, beyond your own tribe, into the culture. So actively asking kids and adults to think about it this way. Now, there's also this big word, make. And this has a whole movement behind it. Deloitte actually just put out a huge study about making and how it's going to change our economy and how STEM is involved in everything else. Now, we are actively asking people to make and to build confidence through making, but we're taking it a little bit different. It's not the same way. It's not just the technology, everyday technology, but we're pushing it beyond that. So, going off of making, what do we make at Assemble? We bring all sorts of people into our space. So this is a photo of one of our Saturday Crafternoons where we are combining not only a local artist with kids, but also they're working on painting these palettes that are going to be used in the Garfield neighborhood for trash cans. So the neighbors can pick up their own trash. And this is a project that the Garfield Action United community organization was interested in doing. And we became, again, the platform for this to happen. This is Daryl Kinzel, and I believe it's little Lanaya, who's there every day. We also have things like learning parties. Again, inviting different artists, makers, and technologists to come and do stuff. Margot Goldberg is extracting DNA in Garfield with kids from strawberries. Yes, strawberries have DNA, and yes, you can extract it. Oh my goodness. And then other things, such as programs like our M3, Materials, Media, and Me. You have kids working with things like solar panels. They just walked in, they signed up, they came and did it. These kids live right around the corner. And actually, there's 2 twins there, and they pretty much run the space as well. So thinking about bringing modern, contemporary technology into the hands of people who this is going to be ubiquitous for them one day. This is also part of our Saturday Crafternoons where you're making paper, but not just, oh, we're making paper because this is a great art and craft thing. There's a lot of physics behind that and how it compresses and connects and can make a new substance or a new material. And then also our Make It program where middle schoolers come and learn how to, well, make things. This program, we have been so gracious to partner with the Children's Museum, which you're going to hear a little bit about later. And we were able to buy things through a grant that we got with them, such as a laser cutter and a 3D printer, but also things like a saw, hammers, sewing machines. And kids are able to, as you can see, learn how to saw and hammer, but also learn how to translate hand tools into digital tools, such as laser cutting, using makey-makeys, understanding code, and putting a smartness to the hard and soft materials that they're working with. This is, again, our Make It program. I want you to just see the people that are sitting around this table and ask yourself, does it look like the people that are sitting around you in this room? It's a little bit different. Also, this is a great anecdote that I have to tell you. So these little boys, this is about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night on, I don't know, sometime earlier this year. These little gentlemen, I think it's Mark and Alvin, and our program manager, Luis, they wanted to see how the laser cutter works. And so between laser cutting things and watching Chief Keith videos, which was kind of awkward with the kids, because it was also inappropriate at times, we're teaching them how to laser cut. And you know, what would these kids, they've got nothing to do, it's 9 o'clock at night, they're just running around, maybe going to Family Dollar. What are they laser cutting? Mom! They're making things for their mom. This is Mark, I love him. And you know, he's totally tough with his mom, laser cut on his face. But, you know, taking something like laser cutting it and making it so approachable that you could make something for your mom, similar to what you might do with glue and paper. And here's another one, thank you, Mom. He was embarrassed, so he covered his face, but it's so cute. So helping people who might have real boundaries to overcome them through technology. Now they're learning new skills and other things. And I'll get back to those boundaries. Assemble is a 100% volunteer-run organization. Yes, I have a day job, but you know, one day maybe not. But it means that there's so much of a community supporting this space. This is another one of our learning parties, and it gets really full really fast. It gets hot too. So thinking about boundaries, I want you to think about real boundaries that we as a society, as a culture, have experienced. This is a quote from an amazing man who changed many things about literacy. Once you learn to read, you will be forever free. This was also said in the aspect of slavery. Now, slavery supposedly has been abolished for a very long time, but we're still feeling many of the repercussions. So, taking this and modernizing this quote, I'd like you to think, once you learn to make, will you be forever free? With what we're doing at Assemble, we're hoping to teach kids to not only make, and it doesn't matter what they make, as long as they're learning the process of how, to take that and translate that into ways of overcoming real boundaries. Boundaries of economic status, boundaries of access to information, to better schooling, boundaries such as racial profiling. Those little boys had black hoodies. I hope that they don't end up like others have. So when thinking about make. I hope to encourage you I encourage you to continue to make yourself, but to help others to see how they too can do the things that you're doing by sharing your ideas and sharing your creative processes. And in turn, we will change the face of the STEM professionals, of everybody in this room, to really something the people who can make and should feel like they have the right to make as well. I hope to see you sometime at Assemble.